Welcome to Anti-Woke and Autistic. The person I have here is a fat acceptance influencer. Judging by her appearance, she's probably around 300 pounds, and she's going to attempt to answer a question here that somebody left in her TikTok comments. The question is, explain how being fat is healthy. Or, of course, how you could be healthy and at the same time fat.
Understand how the terms obese and obesity came into the picture and how unnecessary it is. Something that a very quick Google search can do is give you a lot of articles explaining this instead of asking a fat creator to explain it on TikTok. I chose a random article, I didn't even fully read through it, but the very first line is, despite having a bad reputation in the wellness world, body fat is important for your health too. And it is, so let me tell you why. The very start of this says that in 2005, a scientist at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published findings regarding the terms like overweight, obesity, going over the BMI, and just everything along those lines. Something that this article touches on a lot is the BMI. That's your body mass index. That is just a measurement of body fat based on your height and weight. So that does not account for any sort of muscle or anything else that's in your body. It's just your body fat. So it was not supposed to be used like that and not applied to individuals as it is today.
Okay, I'm going to stop here and point out that at the beginning she says body fat is essential. Notice that she didn't say anything about a massive excess of body fat. She only said body fat is good for you, you need it. Well, you need water too, but did you know that if you drink enough water, it'll kill you? Too much of a good thing could be very disastrous. She says nothing about excess, a lot of excess body fat at the beginning. She only says the basics that body fat is necessary. And it is. You do need body fat. It insulates, it has other functions. She didn't say anything about having a massive amount of excess body fat. See how she skirted the issue? Then she's talking about BMI or body mass index, and she is correct. It only takes weight and height into account. It doesn't take your muscle mass into account. But come on, who is she trying to kid? She hardly looks like a muscular athlete. Now, body mass index is inaccurate for people who are very muscular and weigh more because of that muscle. So their BMI might be in the overweight range between 26 and 29. So they get the label of overweight when in fact they could have very low body fat. However, when you're getting into a BMI above 30, especially above 32 or 33, that's not muscle mass. I mean, the person could have a lot of muscle, but what human being could have so much muscle and a normal, healthy amount of body fat and have a body mass index over 30 or over 32 over 3? I mean, maybe The Rock or Hulk Hogan or a strongman competitor, somebody like that. But in general, if somebody has a body mass index of at least 35, there is definitely obesity. There may be muscle in there, but there's definitely obesity. But the higher that body mass index is, the more accurate it is. No human being could have a BMI of 40 or 45, for instance, and not be seriously, significantly overweight. I don't care how much muscle they have.
It also states regarding the BMI that in 1998, the National Institutes of Health moved the overweight and obesity cutoff points down, so that included 25 million more Americans to be considered obese or overweight. So that's already a scam. So to move into exactly how fat can be healthy and being fat can be better for some people, the first thing that it tells you in this article is that it stores energy and insulates the body in cold weather. This body fat also includes fat-soluble vitamins, so it lists vitamin A, E, D, and K, which is part of why fatty foods like avocados and nuts are now considered healthy. One of the points that a lot of people keep commenting on my videos is that being fat can lead to a higher risk for diseases like diabetes, heart disease, heart failure. But what they don't understand is there are a lot of things that being fat can actually help fight against.
All right, so she mentioned that fat contains vitamins, it insulates, and this, and that. Again, you don't need to be morbidly obese in order for your body fat to provide those essential functions that it was meant to. You do not need to be morbidly obese. You see how she's twisting things and warping things around? Furthermore, she's implying that it's okay to be obese because it protects you against cold. What a poor excuse for being obese. Like we're all going to one day be forced to live in frigid cold weather without any coats.
One of the first things on the list is that more fat equals more muscle. It says that bigger people tend to be stronger than thin people according to research, and it does give you a link to take you to that research as well. But it just goes over that fat people can be better at strength exercises like weightlifting. I am not saying all fat people are super strong or that all fat people are stronger than thin people, but again, this video is just explaining how fat is not unhealthy. The next thing on this list is that fat offers protection from injuries. So it says that having a higher BMI, which keep in mind that's just the measure of body fat depending on your weight and height, but that can offer protection from injury in some cases, like car crashes. Some overweight people have had less severe injuries in a crash than thin people, but the research that they have can be mixed on that, but that is a possibility of how being fat can be helpful.
She is extremely mistaken here in her association of strength with health. You could be strong and still unhealthy. You could be strong at any size. Doesn't mean you could be healthy at any size. Actually, you cannot be strong at any size. If you take a look at people on My 600 Pound Life, they are so fat that their deformed bodies prevent them from assuming body positions that would normally enable you to execute significant amounts of force or strength, such as the deadlift, the squat. However, people who weigh less than that but are still morbidly obese, yes, they can be strong. Any personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, etc., knows that you could be strong and fat and still not be healthy. I'm a former personal trainer. I had fat clients, and yes, in general, fat clients who didn't have much of a serious strength training background when compared to thinner clients who also didn't have much of a strength training background tended to be able to do push and pull exercises such as lat pull down or seated row, chest press, seated chest press. They tended, or the leg press, they tended to be able to do presses and pulls with more weight than their thinner counterparts. However, it wasn't significantly more weight. It depends on the sport. You'll notice that the world's greatest discus throwers and shot putters, especially the women, they can be clinically obese. They could be pretty big. They could have a lot of fat, but that doesn't mean they're healthy. Many strong people eat healthfully and manage their weight so that they're not overweight, overfat, and they can be very, very strong. And many healthy people are very strong because they work out. They eat well, they eat very healthfully, they make sure they're not overweight, they manage their weight, they practice good weight management, and they do serious strength training or maybe bodybuilding, some form of resistance training, so they're very strong. But there are fat people who are also very strong. They're on YouTube. There are videos of fat people lifting a lot of weight. I see fat people at the gym. They're pretty strong. But that doesn't mean they're healthy. They can still have clogged arteries. They could still have a mild form of chronic kidney disease that could be caused by obesity. They could have type 2 diabetes. You could have these conditions. You could even have osteoarthritis in your knees from the combination of excess weight and gravity and still be able to lift a ton of weight over your head or push a lot of weight out, seated chest press, or lift heavy dumbbells over your head. Of course, you could bench press. You're lying down, for Pete's sake. If you could be 400 or 500 pounds and bench press a ton of weight. There are people who weigh 400 pounds who could deadlift hundreds and hundreds of pounds. It doesn't mean they're healthy as far as what's going on with their heart, how all that visceral fat, how all that fat around their heart is affecting their heart, their cardiovascular system. It still does not mean that they're not at a very high risk of conditions that morbid obesity or just moderate obesity causes or is a significant risk factor for developing, such as infertility, miscarriage, gestational diabetes, type 2 diabetes, gout, obstructive sleep apnea, osteoarthritis, plantar fasciitis, which is a painful condition of the feet. Did I mention blood clots, deep vein thrombosis? Morbid obesity is a very big risk factor for about a dozen cancers And that risk factor, it's an independent risk factor, meaning that if you work out and you're strong as a bull, but you're morbidly obese or just moderately obese, you're still going to be, that obesity is still going to put you at significant risk for certain cancers.
I'm going to read this next paragraph verbatim. It's regarding fat and fitness. It says, it's clear that fat isn't the enemy and can even be a perk in some cases. But bottom line, there's no need to be thinner or fatter in order to be healthy. You can be healthy at any size, while the reverse is also true. One study found out that almost half of overweight people were metabolically healthy, while 30% of normal people were not. So it doesn't depend on what your size is.
Okay, so she's talking about metabolic health. She's not mentioning the studies that show that fat people who are metabolically healthy are still at much greater risk for cardiovascular disease and other medical conditions when compared to non-overweight people who are also metabolically healthy. So forget this metabolic health. In fact, what about gravity? What about your joints? What about your back? What about your knees? What about your feet? The heck with blood work and metabolic health. Good metabolic health does not prevent obstructive sleep apnea and all the other problems that obesity causes. Good metabolic health, good blood work, does not prevent the higher risk, the much higher risk for certain cancers that obesity causes.
So basically, to sum everything up, it's not necessarily being fat that is healthy or unhealthy. Having fat on your body can be healthy, but depending on your diet and everything else in your life, it can make things unhealthy. So it is not just being fat. One last thing that maybe not everyone knows is that centuries ago, when you had body fat, when you were actually bigger, it meant that you were wealthier because you actually had the money to afford the food that you could eat. So I'm not sure exactly when everything shifted with that, but that's just another thing to keep in mind. Now, I'm not sure exactly where everyone else lives, of course, who's been commenting on my videos, but I live in America, and I grew up in a very broken system. No one really has the tools or maybe even the energy or knows where to start with teaching you how to manage your body. Every single person is different. Everyone can comment whatever they want on my videos because I don't care. But those words can be hurting someone else. I am fat. I have body fat. I have a lot of body fat. That's just me. I do not have a long list of diseases that I'm dealing with. It is not something that is prohibiting me from doing things. I am living my life how I want to live my life because in the end, we all die anyway. So you can be mean if you want to, but just understand that karma is a thing. And just go from there, I suppose. If anyone has stayed until the end of this video, I hope you found some useful information, and maybe if you were one of the people that commented very nasty things on other fat creators' TikToks or just on someone who has body fat in general, then maybe you're able to change your opinions or just change the way that you view things. And just to everyone, make sure you eat something. It does not matter what it is. Just make sure that it is something that your body is able to get energy from, because that's all we're doing it for. We're feeding ourselves to get energy from it. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you stay hydrated as well, because that is also very important regardless of body fat. And just much love, regardless of who you are.
Having fat on your body can be healthy. Notice that she does not precede the word fat with some quantitative value, such as excess amounts of, or 30% extra fat, or some kind of metric that refers to the amount of fat. Yes, we all know the body needs fat. Stop it already. Isn't that interesting how she says in years past, if you were fat, it meant that you had the money to eat a lot of food. So obesity many generations ago was associated with wealth. That is true. That is true. But it's not that people back then wanted to be fat. They want it to be wealthy. Now get this. These days, fat acceptance influencers are always telling people poverty causes obesity. Oh, we can't afford healthy food. They say poverty causes obesity. So many generations ago, obesity meant you had a lot of money, but today, obesity means you're probably living in poverty. What the fudge? She says she doesn't have a long list of diseases. I don't know how old she is, just based on her appearance. She could be around 30 somewhere. She says she still does a lot of things despite being fat. I don't know what things she does, but I can't for the life of me imagine her going out on a hike somewhere. Not that you have to hike in order to live a full life, but there are many instances in the daily tasks of living where you have to exert yourself and be quick and agile. So it's okay to be as fat as a cow because in the end, we all die anyway. That's a pretty low standard. Doesn't this woman want to live long enough to dance at her grandkid's wedding, to hold her first great grandchild, to be shopping for a golf club when she's 65 instead of a cane, to not have to rely on oxygen due to obesity induced chronic heart failure? Doesn't she want to be able to walk with a perk when she's older? Have you ever seen people her size who are 60 and 70 years old? They can barely walk. They shuffle around. They waddle. Even when they're younger, they waddle. A lot of them have you ever noticed that the vast majority of people who have oxygen are fat? Have you ever noticed that? The vast majority are fat. Have you ever noticed that nearly every person who uses a motorized scooter at Walmart is obese? And I mean fat. Oh, yeah, every now and then there's people who are not overweight using those scooters. Those people tend to be just very old, or they might have a cast on their leg. But the vast, vast majority of younger people using motorized scooters are morbidly obese because they don't have that energy. They don't have that energy to be walking around for an hour at a store on their feet. Maybe they have osteoarthritis or some other condition caused by their obesity. This woman actually believes that if I gained 100 pounds, if I gained even 150 pounds, I'd still be as fit, as quick, as agile, as healthy as I am now. She's out of her mind. She's delusional. If she wants to show that fat people can be as fit as non-fat people, why doesn't she do a video of herself dashing up a hill, dashing up a flight of stairs, and then talking without panting hard right after? Why doesn't she show a video of herself hopping on a bicycle and riding it, pedaling it, and then hopping off of it? Why doesn't she show us a video of her leaping over a puddle and all sorts of other actions that would show that her body, from a mechanical standpoint, is in very good shape? Well, the reason she won't do that is because her body is in very horrible mechanical shape. Now, maybe she could deadlift 300 pounds. Maybe she could. But if she could, it would have helped to have shown that in this video. Well, it wouldn't have helped, actually. It would have been interesting. It would have added to the dynamic of the video, but it wouldn't have helped in terms of convincing viewers that you could be fat and healthy. Because, like I said, you could be able to lift a lot of weight and still have a lot of crud building up in your cardiovascular system. You could be a type 2 diabetic and be very strong. I've known people at the gym who have medical conditions, but they're strong. Stop equating being able to move a lot of weight with being healthy. Again, many strong people are healthy because their pursuit of muscle building and strength comes with, number one, weight management, and number two, a very healthy diet. And conversely, many people who have a very healthy diet and who manage their weight properly to the point where their doctors are happy with their weight, many of them are very strong because their pursuit of a healthy lifestyle, their pursuit of health and longevity includes some kind of strength training regimen. Well, anyways, that is my video for today, and I hope you all have a very wonderful, wonderful day.